And gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Miss Nguyen Thanh, Director of Insights, Innovation, and Portfolio Strategies at Heineken, Vietnam.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good? I was blown away by your speech, Rahul. A lot of, thought-provoking because a lot of data and such related to my everyday work. So today is actually my very first time delivering a keynote at MMA, and I believe that there couldn't be any better stage for this. Why? Because the theme of this year is all about insight, innovation, and the impact to grow, right? And you know what? That is my everyday job at Heineken Vietnam. So I'm now leading Insight Innovation and Portfolio Strategy at Heineken Vietnam. And you can imagine that every day I live with that tension, right? How do we capture growth but not reacting to it? So living with the big questions every day. So a lot of pressure. So today I would like to open up the conversation about one keyword, the decision velocity. And many times, and I believe that your very first reactions are also with my peers when we expose this topic to them. The very first reactions about velocity is that speed. We need to be faster. We need to run, marathon, sprint, right? But actually, is this not just about speed? So let's take a reflection moment. I think many of us here in our work day to day, many times we sit in a meeting room. We have a lot of data on the table, right? A lot of facts, a lot of findings, but we were actually reluctant or hesitant to make the call or make the decision. Why is that? We don't lack of data, we don't lack of findings, but what we lack of probably is the confidence to move ahead, right? So in that situation, there are two scenarios when we lack of confidence to make the decision. Scenario number one, we might run very fast and we might end up into a wrong land. That means we get lost even faster with the velocity. Or scenario number two, we can be too slow and the window has closed, right? And we lost the opportunity. So velocity is not about just speed. For me, it's about the timing with precision, right? So why do we need decision velocity? I don't know what the terms you are now describing our world. Is it still VUCA or tuna? So now I ended up with Barney. I think you're familiar with this term as well, right? And living in this context, there are three things that really we need to embrace and act on every day in order to stay competitive. Or at least at Heineken Vietnam, this is what we need to nail every day. And number one is accelerated decisions. So yes, speed is here. There is an element of speed. But what does it mean about accelerated decisions, right? I think outpacing competition in this world is not about having all the data. As what you mentioned earlier, is zero data. It's not first data anymore, right? Everyone can access to data, but the one who wins in the market is the one who gives the fastest but informed decisions, right? So that is the very first thing. It's about accelerated decision. The second thing is, what is the quality of the decision that we are making, right? We need to enhance the quality. And it's super tough. It's super tough. I'm telling you this. I joined the beer industry in 2020. And I usually say that I'm the disruptor of the category. Why? The moment I joined the category, COVID came. Decree 100 came. And that actually disrupted the category. So everyone in FMCG and also in beer category, we were actually living in such a high pressure 5-year horizon since 2020 until now. So how do we make that, high quality decision? It's super tough. Right? So this is all about that. How do we have those kind of decisions when we are under a lot of pressure? Now, the third one, market relevance. Everyone in this room who are working in marketing, we are delivering growth, but through what? To being relevant to consumer, to their needs, and delight consumer and shoppers every day. But let's be honest, relevance is getting a little bit fragile here. right? I use the word fragile because consumer behavior shift overnight. Overnight is a little bit too exaggerating, but I mean it's super hard, it's super fast, super rapid. Let's talk about the trend that we can embrace immediately in TikTok. Cafe Mui, for example, salty caramel coffee, right? It's originated in Hue and now everywhere, and actually it basically reshaped the category. So how do we actually, deliver our offerings being relevant to consumer when relevancy has been so fragile? We need to organize ourselves to be agile and pivot and respond to consumer, but stay true to ourselves with our North Star of portfolio strategy, because I believe all the company have the strategy, the ambition, who we are, what our mission. But we cannot just respond to everything that consumers are asking for. To stay relevant, we still need to be and stay true to ourselves. So that would be the 3 key things for us to make the decision velocity happen in this bunny world. So today, I'm actually bringing my own concept of framework. I haven't named it yet. Maybe you can creatively share with me a name after you've gone through this framework with me. It came up during the time that I think so hard about this keynote deliver. And actually, this framework reflecting the thought process and how we are performing and leading the team at Heineken Vietnam. It's starting first with the compass. So compass is basically our portfolio strategy. That is a long term of 5 years, 10 years. But the compass require a radar. Because we normally think that, hey, our CEO have signed up a plan of 5 years, let's stick with it, and then let's execute just what we decided in that 5 years compass. But no, consumer change, right? The context change every day in this bunny world. So how do we, keep ourselves alert with all these signals? We need a radar. We need to build an ecosystem of the radar. And the radar is basically where we capture the insight, strategic foresight, and also the weak or very early signals that might shape the future of the category later on. Then with those signals, we also need a system of how to turn those signals and insight into actions and into, proof or evidence. I really like what Rohit mentioned before of the campaign effectiveness. It's not just about, during the time we run the campaign, but also to measure it 6 months later. And that actually later on turn into these proof of the evidence-based insights that fuel our actions later on. And the last piece that in this home velocity framework is the engine. The engine in the organization that we are able to execute agile, fast, robust, right? So all these 3 elements will again come back to the compass and make sure that the compass stays true to the evolving of the consumer context and the market environment and the competition, etc. Now let me zoom in one of my favorite, element of this framework, that is the radar. And I believe I see a lot of peers in this room working on this industry of radar. Right. I was fascinated by the concept of the time horizon by Amy Webb from the Future Today Institute. She was trying to actually categorize the signals into different layers based on the time horizon. So we normally talk about insight or foresight, just the generic terms, but for us, when I exposed to this, it's actually clarify a lot of thinking inside of how do we, define the signals based on the time horizon. We're starting first with the short-term signals, and basically that is in the tactics of 1 to 2 years, that representing what are happening today, what the consumers are saying, how are we performing, right? So on that retail audit, Kantar panel, brand health tracking, on the ROI campaign measurement, etc. All of that are the clear signals, strong data, already very visible for us to take the action. The second level is on the strategy signals. The strategy signals is basically emerging signals, right? And that's going to shape us for the strategy of the next 2 to 3 years. And the last one is the structure system level shifts We call it transformative possibilities, and also all of that, AI advancement, circular economy, right? And even the demographics of where we are today, Vietnam is still in that golden population state, but not anymore in the next 10 years. So that actually helps us to shape forward the future of the next 10 years based on all of this vision and system level evolution. Yeah, so this is how the ecosystem of the radar work. But for me, with my experience, and I hope that you concur with me, is that this is not gonna work without people, skill, and habits. We need the people in our organization to help us detect the signals, or even with the agency partners, to detect the signals, right? We need the courage to turn those signals into pilot, test, and turn them into the evidence. And we also need the strategic foresight skill set to connect the dots, but not only in the industry data, the understanding of the consumer behaviors in one category, but we need to expand that horizon into categories, multiple categories, FMCG, and even beyond FMCG as well. Yeah, we need to see through the lens of a wider horizon rather than just the category and that foresight, right? So the last piece of it, people, skill, and habit, still not enough. We need one last element. And that element is actually gonna bridge between the proof and the engine in our decision velocity. It's this trust. I would like to bring in this element, and that is the very hidden element that we seldom talk about when we mention about marketing, execution, the trust part. I have seen so many decisions and even innovation, execution fail. Not because of the lack of the proof or the evidence, but it's because the lack of trust. Without the trust, the data gonna become silo, right? And all of that evidence even still remain very debatable. And for sure, the decision velocity gonna be hindered because there were no trust. If people don't trust the process, don't trust the data, don't trust the evidence, or even trusting each other, decision velocity not gonna happen. The engine that we see over here is not gonna run. Nobody gonna run. Nobody gonna turn all the signals, evidence into the actions, right? So I think this basically recap a lot of reflection myself, being in this position and driving from the signals to the evidence and then to the execution. We need to reinforce and build trust in the organization. Otherwise, decision velocity not gonna happen, right? Okay, enough about on that abstract decision velocity. I've been in the industry, and today I have the chance to bring this topic to you. I would like to, reflect a little bit what we have done at Heineken Vietnam that actually representing our pioneering spirit with high velocity, and that is basically our competitive edge in the industry. There are 4 things, 4 campaigns, 4 including innovation that basically representing that spirit of Heineken Vietnam. Back then, again, when I was the disruptor of the category in 2020, in March 2020, that was the first lockdown happened because of COVID, right? And you can imagine that on the calendar, marketing calendar changed upside down. And I just joined the organization for 2 months. And I got the assignment like, you need to create a campaign, changing this from something else because, COVID came. We cannot execute the previous defined activity. So here comes the first campaign in Heineken Vietnam. First round on Tiger, Uncage the Street Vibes. It came from detecting the signals of, okay, COVID came, who got suffered the most in our Heineken ecosystem? That is our on-trade outlets, right? Off-trade is more or less not too bad, but on-trade, you close down, right? People don't gather, so basically on the outlets, owners gonna suffer. So that idea of first round on Tiger initiated because we think that when we reopen, we can offer a promotion scheme to our on-trade owner. Everyone who came to the outlet can enjoy the first round on Tiger for free. Everything on us, right? So with that idea was immediately got signed off in Heineken Vietnam. And then in 4 weeks' time, we turned that idea into execution, including a TVC, a promotion campaign, and all the visibility, amenities being developed only in 4 weeks' time. And you know what? The level of agility in this decision velocity of this campaign is that we need to anticipate when the government open, because we don't know. We don't know. It was just so much a pressure, right? So every single day we need to read the newspaper, anticipate, if they open by the end of April or if they open by May, what could be the scenario? So scenario planning was there when we've done this first campaign, and the decision velocity was so fast and agile internally. And that happened, actually, it was quite a blast for us when we run this campaign across all the provinces when the government opened again after the lockdown. The second example is Tiger Collab, also happened during COVID time in 2021. We plan to activate the trial and the voting in the on-trade. But again, COVID came, closed down. So at that moment, we need to agilely think of how we execute this and which platform to do that if on-trade are not available. And we, at that moment, decided to explore e-commerce. Why? Because Tiger Collab was for Gen Z. And at that moment, we were so lucky to partner with Lazada, and that was the very first time we run a campaign on Lazada to let the Gen Z consumer try the product, purchase the product, and basically we turn all of that into the evidence to source for and to fuel for our launching event later on of Tiger Collab, right? So the first two examples is a lot about speed, agile, right? Super agile, right? At Heineken Vietnam to move on with what we have planned, and we need to change at the very last minute. Then comes to innovation. La Rousse Smooth has always been, La Rousse Smooth has always been, a very most proud innovation in Heineken Vietnam. And the success factor to it is not about speed. It's about trust. We launched it within 6 months from ideation to being on shelf. And you can crazily with all the research and such. But the sales team, the trust from sales team and across the function have brought into the success of this innovation. And I need to rush because it's time up, but I think you are very familiar with Heineken eCoin. It was the first digital award platform of Heineken. We pioneered this, but you know what happened with this? We started small. But what good, it's really the decision velocity over here is that we trust that this gonna become a big platform in the future. So we continuously invest in this consistently, persistently. And now it turned into a digital platform that can, engage with the consumers and also bring growth for Heineken Silver today. Yeah. So I think I talk a lot, ranging from framework to the real examples. But I think net at the end, it's not about the framework. Decision velocity lie in the people. That would be my tech out. Decision velocity lie in the people, lie in the trust that we build with each other, lie in the confidence to take the act, and also the courage, right, to take the move when it matters the most. So thank you, MA, for this chance to share the story with all of you.